welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. I'm Lindsay, and I'm finally doing my Caraval series review that I've been talking about for a little bit. I wanted to get my script together, but I feel like first I should address the elephant in the room. I chopped my hair off. I really wanted to do it, and so I did. And now it's shorter, much shorter. It was to like past my butt, and now it's to my shoulders, and it's also gotten curlier, so I keep going like boing, and I feel like that one Peanuts character, I can't remember her name, but the one that's always like my naturally curly hair. So that's where I'm at right now. It is a little wet right now, but it's fine. It's totally fine. I'm going to talk about these books now. So Caraval are these three books: Caraval, Legendary, and Finale by Stephanie Garber. They come before Once Upon a Broken Heart, that series, but I read these first, and that's why I was kind of nervous going into these, knowing what I did about them. Because of Once Upon a Broken Heart, I knew a little bit, and I knew there would be a character or characters in here from Once Upon a Broken Heart that I loved, and I was a little bit nervous. I don't know why, but I ended up really liking this series. What I knew from Once Upon a Broken Heart was a bit of Donatella's story, and I wasn't sure how much of that would be, I guess, prevalent in these stories. I wasn't sure if that took place over these three books. So I just wasn't sure what to expect and was a little bit hesitant, but once I started reading it, like I said, I really enjoyed it. These are also spoiler-free reviews, so it's kind of just summaries of each book, because the first one starts off being about Donatella's sister, her point of view, Scarlet. So I also knew about Scarlet as well. She is very briefly in Once Upon a Broken Heart. She's not talked about as much as Once Upon a Broken Heart. So I kind of knew more so where she'd be at the end of this, and it was very interesting for me to go through this series learning how she gets there, because in the beginning it's a completely different place. So anyway, the story starts off with Scarlet writing to the Caraval Master Legend, and she had been writing him since she was 10 years old, and she didn't hear back from him until she was, I think, 17, and she was actually about to get married. So it was an arranged marriage, and she had been asking Legend to bring his players to Trista where she lives, but they couldn't travel, so Legend invites them to his private island to compete in Caraval, to play Caraval, and he invites Scarlet, her sister Donatella, and her fiance to go to his island to compete for a wish. We are also very quickly introduced to her sister Donatella, and the state that we find her here in really piqued my interest, especially with what I knew about her from Once Upon a Broken Heart. And it is very obvious early on that Scarlet is more of a rule follower. She's a little more timid, and Donatella is very kind of reckless and brave and kind of does what she wants and is more adventurous. You also learn that they have both been through a lot. I mean, I'm avoiding spoilers here, so I'm not going to say anything, but it is very evident early on that they have gone through trauma, and perhaps the way that they are is them both having different responses to this trauma. And as I said, Scarlet's marriage was arranged, and she doesn't really care so much. She is just trying to get out of Trista, whereas Donatella is very much against the idea of marrying someone you don't know, so there's a little bit of friction there. The sisters, the sisterly love is there in the beginning, but that's a little bit of a conflict in this story. And even though she really wanted to leave Trista, she has good reasons to be hesitant when it comes to going to Caraval, so she wasn't going to go. This is Scarlet, that is. And Donatella kind of works together with this man named Julian to kind of take her there against her will, take Scarlet, and Donatella was doing it because she knew that deep down Scarlet would regret not going, and that how badly she always wanted to compete in Caraval, or at least see Caraval, and Julian just wanted to help get them out of their home. I really loved how this book had a big focus. I mean, this whole series has a big focus on sisterly love. There's more than just the romantic love in the series. There's the platonic love that is so important, and I love that so much. This story also felt very twisted fairy tale, similarly to Once Upon a Broken Heart, but differently. Once Upon a Broken Heart felt very twisted Cinderella to me, and it had like pink and bows, where this has the same, but that was more of like, again, felt more Cinderella, and there was dragons, and it was just like small fairy tale villages, whereas this one is more opulent, and it's a carnival, and it's like they both have dark magic. I think Once Upon a Broken Heart was more like curses, and this was more like illusions, so very different, like similar undertones of that. There's something darker going on here, then there's more than meets the eye type deal, but different for lack of better words, vibes. To elaborate, when we get to Caraval, we learn that the rules are really murky and it does a really good job of blurring the lines between fantasy and reality. So Scarlet very quickly learns that things are more dangerous. We also have a lot of secrets revealed. We have a lot of mysteries unravel. It was way more ruthless than the cautious but fiercely protective of her sister Scarlet was prepared for. She didn't know that being a guest of legend wasn't this luxury that she was expecting. So that's when, like I said, mysteries unravel. There's these twists that I honestly didn't see coming. Some of them I did, some of them I didn't. And I don't mind if twists are easy to guess and I figure out all the twists. Like if it's like everything connects and it's well written and that kind of stuff, sometimes I'm still having a great time. But when there's these twists that I was like, okay, I didn't see that coming, I gotta say, it gets me. I like it. This book also had romance that was so devastatingly beautiful, and I'm not even gonna try to put a trope to it and use a trope to describe it, even though I feel like parts of it I could. It's more complicated than that, and it's just, I really liked the way it was written. I will say, having read Once Upon a Broken Heart first, I didn't know as much about the world as I learned in Caraval. The politics going on, and it's just a much bigger world than I knew. Stephanie's world building, it kind of goes, you learn more as the book goes on. I think she paces it just fine. She also doesn't tell you everything, and I know for some people they like to know everything about the world. I don't mind if it's a little more focused in ways that just contribute to the story. So I think that was fine. I mean, like Once Upon a Broken Heart, as I said, I didn't know all this background that I learned in this book and in this series, but I don't think it really affected my reading all that much. I don't think it had a negative impact on my reading of Once Upon a Broken Heart because of how focused that story was. That's just a little sidebar of my opinion on that. Definitely though, if you haven't read Once Upon a Broken Heart or Caraval and they both interest you, I would recommend reading Caraval first. If you have read Once Upon a Broken Heart and want to learn more about the world and the fates and Scarlet and Donatella who are mentioned in Once Upon a Broken Heart, I would definitely recommend reading Caraval, because definitely in the second book you start learning a lot more about the fates. The first book is one I grew to love more and more as it went on. It's not that it didn't start with a hook, it did. It was just like it played with my emotions as it went, and I really enjoy when a book makes me feel a wide variety of emotions. I don't know what that says about me. I think it's just more so like it leaves a lasting impression on me if I'm feeling lots of different emotions. I don't know. That's just where we're at. So moving on to the second book, we shift focus to Donatella, and as I said, I was nervous going into the series. I was even more nervous when I started this book because, as I said, Donatella is the one that you learn a little bit more about. I was speaking like Mario. You learn a little bit more about her in Once Upon a Broken Heart than you do Scarlet, and so knowing what I knew of her story and who it involves, I was very nervous. I was like, be careful with my boy, you know? I can't go too deep into the story to avoid spoilers for both this one and the first one, but as I said, it's about Donatella this time. She's competing in Caraval. It's happening for a second time in the same year, which is very unusual for this event, but it's happening because it is the Empress Elentine's birthday. So Scarlet and Donatella and friends, they depart to Valenda for this new Caraval, the second Caraval, and it's kind of pulls you in right away with this mystery where Donatella has made a deal with someone whose identity she doesn't even know, but she plans on finding out and giving them Legend's true name. Plus, it was nice to get Donatella's story because narrators are unreliable, so Scarlet can tell us what she thinks of Donatella, what her perception of Donatella is, and what she thinks Donatella's thinking, but we can't truly know what Donatella's thinking until we have Donatella as the narrator, so it was interesting to get to learn her motivations and that kind of stuff. This is also, as I said, the story where we get to learn more about the fates, so I probably should have read it before Once Upon a Broken Heart because I did get a lot more of their backgrounds. I think the world building with the magic is pretty unique. I've read some books that like the pacing is you're learning the magic as the protagonist is learning how to use the magic. That's an interesting way to do it. Just there's ways to pace it out that it's not info dumping on you, and I think the pacing of this is very interesting because it is not just you learning about the magic with the protagonist. A lot of the magic is covered by mystery and that kind of stuff, so you're unraveling a lot of mysteries as you're learning about the magic, and so I think that was a very neat way of pacing that out. And I'm sure there's other books that have done that, probably somewhere that I haven't read. It's just I read a lot of books where it's kind of the protagonist thought something about the magic, and it's like what they were told was wrong, less so than they are unraveling and unveiling secrets and that kind of stuff. So this to me was a new kind of magic system. As for the third book, I can't say much, again, to avoid spoilers, but this is kind of where Donatella and Scarlet's stories come together, so it has both their point of views that it's kind of switching between, and they're each doing their own thing, but it's all interconnected, so it makes sense to have both their point of views, if that makes sense, what I just said. Did that? You got it? You understand? It also continues the story I knew from Once Upon a Broken Heart, so I really enjoyed getting to learn more about that, and learning even more about the Fates and the world and their background, and unraveling more mysteries. So again, that is something that's big in these stories, and I think Stephanie really likes a man that is sworn off love for whatever reason. Donatella's story also has that, so that's where she starts, so seeing her development over these books. I will say with that, there is more Donatella in the last book. I didn't count, but it seems that she had a lot more chapters than Scarlet, so I think I just felt like there was more of a focus on her. And I thought Scarlet's story was really interesting and would have liked to learn more about her story, so that's my one kind of critique about this series. The last book specifically is just I wanted more Scarlet, and there are some things I wanted more answers on, but we have Spectacular coming out in, I think, the fall, so hopefully we get more. Nothing against Donatella either. Like I said, I enjoyed her story. I just wanted to hear more about Scarlet's story as well, so I'm very interested in learning what Spectacular is about. I haven't even looked up the synopsis of that, so I can't wait to read it though. Overall, as I said, something that's really big in the story is the mysteries and the secrets being unveiled. I think Scarlet, I almost said Scarlet. Stephanie does a really good job of writing heartbreaking scenes that make you feel like that song, Oh I Love It and I Hate It at the same time. Like, I was going to cry, but I was like, this was so well done that I'm so happy it happened, even though it's making me so sad. Something I'd also say about Stephanie's writing is I feel like it's very whimsical. Like, it's fun, even though there's an edge to it. Like, there's definitely an edge to it. Like I've already said, kind of twisted fairy tale vibes, but she does a really good job of instilling hope in her readers, even when it feels all is lost, and I love that. I know it can be kind of cliche, but I don't mind cliches a lot of the time, if I'm being honest, and that's, yeah, it made me want to read Once Upon a Broken Heart again. Like, I already planned on rereading it eventually, but this definitely made me want to go back and read it. I don't know if I will have time this year, but I'm hoping to be able to read it again before the end of the year, or like beginning of next year, because I think I'm going to go into Once Upon a Broken Heart with a new appreciation for those characters and knowing more about this world and their backstories and that kind of stuff. I did not expect to like either of those series as much as I did. I mean, Once Upon a Broken Heart, I was like, nah, it does appeal to me. Just like the name of it, even, I was like, okay, I'm ready for this. But I didn't know that it would be this imprinted on me, and Caraval as well. So I accidentally used a battery that wasn't full, and now I have the battery that's full in, but of course it died while I was doing my outro. Like, you couldn't have given me a minute. But anyway, if you like this, please like and subscribe. I try to do spoiler-free series review every time I finish a series. If it's a standalone or if it's a book from a series that hasn't been finished yet, I'm going to be vlogging a lot of those this year. And I also try to do monthly reading wrap-ups. So if you like that kind of stuff, please like and subscribe. If you just like books in general, that's what we're talking about here. So yeah, I will see you soon. Bye!